Here, these examples I'm showing you, where they either slightly interpreted it, I'll use that word, or they created a historical narrative to fulfill it. So another example of that is when Matthew quotes Zechariah 9:9. It says that the Messiah will come riding in on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Now that is Hebrew poetry. It's called synonymous parallelism, where they repeat the same thing twice. So Matthew was maybe reading the Septuagint and he thought that Jesus had to come in on a donkey and the colt of a donkey. But if you read the other Gospels, it's not like that. So he was creating the narrative to fit what he thought the Old Testament was saying. And then if you look at another example, I got you not from Matthew, where John 19, and our pastor mentioned this, he slightly mistranslates Zechariah 12:10, because our pastor said that the translation of Zechariah 12:10, وَهِبِّتُ إِلَيْهِ, they will look unto me. But if you read John's Gospel, he doesn't translate it like that. He translates it differently, and he makes it refer to Jesus in the past tense, right? So we'll get into that a little bit later. Now, I'm not the one who's saying all of these things. I didn't just make it up in my bedroom last night. This is open, critical scholarship you can read about. John Dominic Crossan in Who Killed Jesus, he says, the details of the crucifixion are not history memorized, but rather prophecy historicized. Mark Goodacre says a very similar thing. He says, yes, there were definitely traditions that were passed down, but these were amended and appended to in light of other prophecies. He says tradition was scripturalized.
This evening I heard that the Bible that I'm reading is contradictory. I heard that the translations that I read is not correctly given to me. I'm 84 years old. So I've been wandering around in the wrong place. What I want to ask is, why do you come now and say that the translations of the original Textus Receptus, there were a lot of teams working on this translation, and now I must discover tonight that they made a mistake because you mentioned the NIV tonight, and I can give you some examples of the NIV which has not been taken from the Textus Receptus, which shows that the translation is a bit different. But how come that you only come here tonight now for the first time, that I can hear that what I've been reading, I cannot trust it because the translations are incorrect?
Thank you for that. I appreciate that question. So I want to say first off that, you mentioned the Textus Receptus. That was the text that was used in the King James Version, right? The Textus Receptus. And as you correctly pointed out, the NIV comes along and tells you that the Textus Receptus got it wrong here, there. 1 John 5:7, that verse has been removed, the ending of Mark, etc., etc., etc. So how I want to phrase it is that people living before the NIV thought that the KJV was right. And you might have had an 84-year-old man saying, I've been reading this KJV my entire life. And now you're coming with this NIV and you're changing things. But that's not a sufficient enough argument to use to now not go to something if the evidence leads there. So I know that, yes, I claim this and I claim that, but at the same time, I tried my best to provide references. I tried my best to show you that, see here, this is the way that they're translating it. This is the original Hebrew. If you want to back up what I'm saying, go to the NRSV, which is the most scholarly translation, and it'll back up what I'm saying. And a lot of the people who are involved in that are of a Christian leaning as well. So I really feel for where you're coming from, and I appreciate that of course you are someone who's obviously been searching for God, but at the same time, the mere fact that something came to you at a certain late stage doesn't negate the fact that it could be true. And